A Democratic strategist says that voters need to stop expecting Democrats to do things. See, it's not that Democratic leadership is a problem in the fact that it's beholden to donors. No, it's a follower problem. It's a voter problem. Oh, well, that's interesting. So now this comes after a member of the King family, Andrea Waters King, criticized Democratic leadership for not prioritizing something that is valuable, should be valuable to the entire Democratic Party, and that's voting rights. Voting rights, very, very important. If people can't get to the polls, people can't actually vote for politicians in order to have those politicians do things. So now, here's what she said, quote, "What we've seen with President Biden is what happens when he puts his full force and power behind an issue like infrastructure." She told Politico, "What we want to see is that same power and passion being put behind voting rights." And again, I think that's incredibly important. Yes, you have to stop Republican voter suppression measures. Those suppression measures make it so that you have to have an overwhelming number of votes just to be able to get representation in the House. And then, of course, you also have all these gerrymandered districts. Of course, gerrymandering, at the end of the day, actually does benefit both parties, Democrats, Republicans as well. Republicans get to control more of the map, while Democrats get their so-called safe districts. Disastrous, all right? So now, she was one of the ones who boycotted Biden's speech recently, to the chagrin of many Democratic strategists and Democrats overall. In fact, here's what she said about that. Quote, "There was no way that we, in good conscience, could celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. this year without progress on the legislation that was the cornerstone of his legacy." So now, as I've covered, Martin Luther King Jr., very socialist, supposed radical, but every mainstream politician wants to come out and kind of whitewash that legacy and only focus on the civil rights stuff. Now, the civil rights stuff is incredibly important. Voting rights, of course, but also the economic policies as well. As you can't really be an equal member of society if you don't have any economic opportunity. So Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. understood that, and that's why he went and allied and worked on behalf of striking sanitation workers and advocated for democratic socialism. Now, very important, the democratic part in democratic socialism, also democracy. Democracy, very important, which means voting rights, expanding the vote. So now, what has Joe Biden done on that front? Well, very little, very little. Again, infrastructure, that's all fine and good. But as I pointed out before, a lot of it's a corporate handout. And as the results and the good things that will come from infrastructure, aside from like the bad things like toll booths on roads and bridges, will not be felt for years to come and will not have an immediate impact on improving the material conditions of people's lives. And so, okay, that's a problem, right? But voting rights, he should have done something about voting rights because, again, you would think that that would be a priority over handing out billions of dollars in corporate welfare. But then again, of course, you have to talk about the donors, the owner donors, the people who, run essentially both parties, fund both parties to the tune of billions of dollars. And so what you have here is a situation where the donors said, we want that infrastructure bill. That is our first priority. And so that's what we're going to focus on. And then, oh yeah, maybe voting rights, but not actually. And so, of course, activists are incredibly upset over this, considering how much work these activists have done. But Paul Begala, who was a former aide to former President Bill Clinton, has this take. Watch.
I think the problem for the Democrats right now is not that they have bad leaders. They have bad followers. Okay, I read the most amazing essay today from Andy Young. Andy is former mayor of Atlanta, former UN ambassador, and more importantly, probably the closest confidant and aide to Dr. King. He told this story. December of 1964, Andy Young and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. go to see Lyndon Johnson to push him for a Voting Rights Act. Johnson says, I can't do it. I used all my power to get the Civil Rights Act done last year. I don't have the power to push Congress any further on voting rights. As they left the White House, Andy Young's words, he said, I asked Dr. King what he thought. He said, I think we got to go get the president some power. And so you know what they did? They organized. These are Andy Young's words. We mobilized the churches, the universities, the labor unions, the business community, a coalition of people of goodwill. In other words, those of us who want to save voting rights, we need to get to work. I do think Biden is putting everything behind this, but he needs better followers. So he needs all of us in the game as well.
See, it's not that we have weak, feckless Democratic leadership that doesn't actually do the things that they said that they were going to do. No, we just have bad followers. You see, you just didn't vote hard enough. You gotta vote harder. And now, since you didn't, even though we do have technically a majority, we're still not gonna do anything. You get nothing. You get nothing. Now, here's the thing. What kind of response was that? The actual criticisms pointed out by a relative of Dr. King. I mean, again, she said that, hey, it would have been nice if Joe Biden had pushed as hard on voting rights as he did on the bipartisan, corporate-funded and corporate-supported infrastructure bill. And so that's the thing. Paul Begala is blaming the organizers and saying, you didn't organize hard enough. You should have organized harder. What do you think they did? What do you think they did? Again, you had black voters in Georgia that delivered 2 congressmen and the presidency to Joe Biden. Those activists worked their asses off for it. Many other places around the country, black activists specifically. One of their priorities, voting rights, obviously have many other priorities. But voting rights is one of them. Because what have Republicans been trying to do? They've been trying to shut down voting. Ridiculous. And by the way, this argument that you should have just voted harder because we need more Democrats. Well, what happened when the last time we had a Democratic majority? Not just a Democratic majority, a super majority during the Obama administration. What happened then? Again, voters worked their asses off. They gave Obama a supermajority. And what happened? We ended up with Mitt Romney's healthcare plan. So we ended up with the Heritage Foundation created healthcare plan enacted by Mitt Romney. That's what we got with a Democratic majority. You just need to vote harder, though. And then maybe you'll get things. Maybe you get some things, but not anything that upsets our donors. And so that's the problem, okay? And by the way, after that, you do remember what happened. Democrats lost over 1,000 seats all over the country under Obama. Give me a break. Paul Begala, people like you are why the Democrats lose. They have terrible consultants that go and tell them, no, the solution here is to go further to the right. And then to chastise your voters when voters don't turn out for them because you've done nothing for them. See, I don't know, like, they keep telling us, hey, you got to turn out for Democrats. You got to turn out for Democrats because then we can get all this stuff done. And then when they do, Democrats go, oops, oh, sorry, Lucy with the football. We're just not going to do it. Parliamentarian. It's a parliamentarian. It's their fault. Yes, that's what it is. Also, it's your fault. It's progressives' fault. It's Bernie Sanders' fault. You didn't do enough. Your voters are terrible. You're bad followers. You're bad Democrats. Bad. But we're great. The consultants are awesome. And the corporations that fund us are awesome. The lobbyists are awesome. But you guys suck. Vote blue. Vote blue no matter who. Now, here's the thing, right? So this is why I keep pressing. I'm not saying don't vote. I'm not saying vote third party. All right? In our system, that's a joke. And by the way, I'm saying that because our system itself is a joke. And so what I'm saying is primaries, primaries, primaries. You got to get in the primaries. Now, Democrats are like, oh, ignore primaries. You got to vote for the more electable one in the primaries so they can win the general. No, no, no. That's a fake out. You've got to vote for the more progressive one. You have to vote for the more progressive person in the primaries if you actually want there to be some sort of a factual change. But no, that's why they're so, understand why primaries are so important and why Democrats do everything that they can, establishment Democrats, do everything they can to shut down any progressive challenger in the primaries because they don't want them to have that power, because it is power. It is actual power. And that's why they shut them down so incredibly hard. They wouldn't shut them down hard. They'd be, oh yeah, go ahead, progressives. Go ahead and win these primaries. Totally fine. They'll never do that. They'll never voluntarily give up their power. That's why you have to run primaries to take it from them. Take it from people like Paul Begala. All right, there's more. And look, the other thing that Paul Begala is doing as well, again, you've seen it blaming progressives, right? Blaming progressives for actually expecting you to do the things that you campaign on. And that's what, again, progressives in Congress are doing. Like, hey, wait a minute, you're not doing the things that you campaign on. Why aren't you doing those things? Well, you should definitely do those things. But instead of, saying, yes, you're right, we should push and actually try to do these things. What did Hillary do? Hillary Clinton just come out and say? She just said, oh, we need more moderates. Oh, we need to stop being progressive. No, we're going too far to the left. Be more moderate, progressive, shut up. Stop complaining, stop bitching. Vote blue. You got to give us more. You got to give us more. Well, why? Why? Why should we? No, we should not be giving you more establishment, moderate Democrats. That is the last thing that we should be doing, because then we lose. No, the thing is, and by the way, this is the playbook that they're running going into the midterms, and we're going to see how ineffective that is. They're going to say, well, look at how Republicans, how bad they are, which I agree, they're terrible. They are absolutely awful. But is that a good argument to get people to turn out if you haven't actually delivered on your promises? Remember, Republicans have no qualms about coming out and lying to you. Oh, we're going to save Social Security. Now, Democrats have also kind of done the same thing, right? Oh, we're going to save Social Security. Obama put it on the table, tried to do a chain CPI with the Republican Party to cut Social Security. So understand that, like, okay, both parties absolutely are lying to you. But Republicans come up with some of the most brazen lies, even though they're completely on the opposite end of the spectrum here. And so, but what they're saying is, see, Republicans bad, which they are. That's why you need to vote for us. We're not going to give you anything, but just Republicans bad. Okay. Not a good argument. That's not going to be effective in getting people to turn out. But anyway, no, if you want turnout, do something. Do something. And by the way, I love how Begala points out the example of LBJ. You want to talk about LBJ? All right. Well, LBJ didn't get things passed by being nice, by being, Joe Biden. He's actually known to have bullied senators into falling in line when it comes to votes by using a mixture of tactics: intimidation, threats, carrots, and sticks. And he used them to get his way. And so, for example, during the fight to get the Civil Rights Act passed, on the morning of November 27th, somebody had attempted to persuade him not to, quote unquote, waste his time or capital on the lost cause of civil rights. Here's what Johnson said, quote, well, what the hell's the presidency for? Meaning, of course, hey, I'm going to use my power as president. I'm going to use the bully pulpit to whoop some ass. And that's what he did. He threatened, he twisted arms, he went around segregationist senators using political procedures, like, for example, trying to get something called a discharge petition in order to get through racist committee chairmen. segregationists, right? He put massive political pressure on the Republican Party and managed to break the filibuster. And so that's strength. That's strength. Yes, you use carrots, and yes, you use sticks. Now, what's Joe Biden? He's all carrot. He's all carrot. He's got no stick at all. He refuses to use it. And so that's what's going on here. And by the way, here's an example of that. Joe Biden, look, Joe Manchin right now is stopping Biden's agenda from getting passed. He's like, filibuster. Yeah, I'm just not gonna, I'm not gonna support, ending or even reforming the filibuster. Kind of, Okay, well, so here's what you do if you're a real leader. You threaten him, not his life, obviously, but first you try to do, you try the carrot, right? So now this is what Biden did. So he gave Gail Manchin, the wife of Senator Joe Manchin, a job as co-chair of the Appalachian Regional Commission. Okay? So now that's a carrot, or it could have been used as a carrot. Now, how he did this wrong is that this was during the middle of Manchin blocking his agenda. That's when he appointed Gail Manchin. So now, what a stronger leader should have or would have done is, oh, hey, does your wife want that job? It'd be a real shame if she didn't get it. Maybe if you were to go along with my agenda, well, then maybe I might be able to, see if there's an open job for her that she might enjoy. Yeah, we could do that. But no, he just gave it to her. Just gave it to her. Or we'll talk about sticks. You want to talk about a stick? All right. Well, remember Heather Bresch? Joe Manchin's daughter. So now Joe Manchin's daughter ran Mylan Pharmaceuticals. Mylan Pharmaceuticals was known for taking the EpiPen and jacking up the price while colluding with Pfizer in order to basically run a monopoly on this for profit and splitting the profits with Pfizer. Now her company, that company Mylan, ended up actually merging with a part of Pfizer into a brand new company. And she got a $37 million golden parachute from that deal. Now, if I were Joe Biden, I think, hey, that seems a little strange. You did some collusion? Very strange. Maybe I should have the Justice Department to look into this. Ripping off consumers, even the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. You might want to get onto that. See if there was some criminal activity or some foul play here. Maybe we could do that, or you could play ball. I don't know, maybe. Look, understand that, when it comes to politics, this is not about softball. It's about hardball. You want to get things done, you got to break a few eggs. You got to step on some toes, you got to make some enemies. That's what you have to do. And you got to learn how to wield power. Now, Joe Biden is either too weak to do that, or he doesn't want to. Or he just doesn't want to. Because he's in the pocket of the donors. I don't know. Very likely, though. Very likely. But see, people like Paul Begala, they want us to believe that, no, it's not a leadership problem. It's not an us problem, us being the donor and consultant classes. No, it's a you problem. It's all your fault. Stop expecting things. You damn voters, you just want too much. You just want too much. They do not realize, or maybe they do, that they're enabling the fascist authoritarian right wing to steamroll all over them and take over the country. Maybe they think, I don't know, as long as we're rich, we can still run if the fascists come for us. I don't know. Hell with everybody else. Not sure if that's the case or if just incredibly stupid. Either way, not good for America.